This guy is the all-time leading tackler for the Green Bay Packers. In the helmet-to-helmet era, this man tackled more people than anybody in the history of the Green Bay Packers. 0 documented concussions, which leads me to this point. Other Green Bay Packer legend, A.J. Hawk, has come out and said that he has gotten over 1,000 concussions. If what the modern science is saying is a concussion is an actual concussion, that being Brett Favre. What are your thoughts on this, AJ? Obviously incredibly sad to see any former player have these types of issues, but Brett Favre is saying now, based on modern understandings of concussions, he believed he suffered thousands of them during his 20-year NFL career. I don't think he's the only one, by the way. I've had teammates that once they learned that, like, oh, just getting dinged, like that's actually a concussion. It's like, oh, I got dinged every single quarter of my every single practice, every single everything. What are your thoughts on that, AJ? And do you still believe that your thick cranium was able to be defeated 0 times in your NFL run?
No, it's not about being defeated or not. Like, getting a concussion is not being defeated. That's just
no, your cranium, your brain.
Cranium being defeated. Yeah, but I mean, no, this is, believe me, when I was young, like when I was in college, in the NFL early, like I always said, what is a concussion? Like, what determines what makes this a concussion compared to something not a concussion? So I think we still have a lot out there that we don't know, but this is terrible if Brett really legit feels like he had over 1,000 concussions. I mean, that's a ton.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of science since Dr. Will Smith's movie came out.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of pills that people are trying to create to help cognitive brain function. And I think there's a lot of people trying to correct, because it's not just NFL players, obviously. It's a lot of other sports that have had head contact and trauma. Military, a lot of that, because as we learn what is actually a concussion, to your point when that question was being asked, it used to be like, well, your brain hits off the side of your head and then you're out of you can't operate.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you have to be completely knocked out to do a concussion. Then, as things continue to roll, it's like, well, not really. Like, if you see a little stars, but you keep going, your brain probably did enough damage that it should be considered a concussion. Then it was like, some people don't even know they're getting concussions from a buildup of a bunch of small hits. And it's like, I don't know what the actual thing is. We should probably look into that, and science will continue to evolve on it. But I do hope we find something that can hopefully help guys afterwards, because we've all seen, in multiple sports, in multiple fields, what guys become, both, the way their cognitive function, I assume their life, their moods, everything that is affected by it, hopefully we'll be able to make it a much better place in the future. And I hope science is working on that, whatever the fuck that means. Is that researchers, doctors, whatever? I hope somebody's working on that for the future, AJ.
Yeah, I've talked to people that have had some issues and they've gone, there's different things where I don't know what works and what doesn't, but guys have had some good results with this different laser type stuff. They scan their brain to try to find which areas may have been impacted the most, and then they can kind of, I don't know. A couple guys told me they've actually felt better, but they've had to go through multiple times, 15, 20, 30 treatments.
Yeah, I wonder if there will ever be, probably not, right? Because,
no.
We talked to Dr.
Neuralink, Elon Musk is trying to do it with Neuralink, where he could, if you can't walk, he wants to put Neuralink in your head, and all of a sudden you can walk. It'll somehow communicate and get you to do that.
I don't know if now's the time to get in this conversation because I'm not sure I've done enough research, but my college strength coach, Mike Barwis, I've seen, he runs gym now. I've seen people that they have got the brain and the muscles back from paralysis to being able to walk, and brain being retaught almost. What once just a few years ago, maybe decades ago, people thought was lost. Now there is a way that you can retrain parts of the brain and muscles that they thought they wouldn't be able to do so. I've watched fucking miracles happen on his Instagram, and I've sent a DM hey, is this should be talked about, I think. This is a pretty massive deal, but I think it all kind of revolves around more brain information. And that's an interesting thing. Brains studying brains. And brains not being able to figure out why brains are the way brains are.
Everybody's brain reacts differently too to trauma and whatever's going on. So, yeah. It's a weird. I don't know where we go. I think we're just scratching the surface. Obviously, we know nothing.
We need people to start diving into that, though.
Well, you got to be careful too, because then you run into an RD 4895 situation.
Ooh.
Well, for those that haven't seen Terminal List, that is certainly an inside baseball joke, but basically in medicine it created whatever the case. Nonetheless, you're right. Who knows how do you get to testing to do that without
Wasn't that the problem too? Is like most of the brain research, it's from people who have already died, and like they donate their brains for the research. Like I don't know how much stuff they can actually do while a person is still living to try to like correct it.
Yeah, and how much
forward.
different is my brain while it's live than whenever it's dead? Just a little bit. Even if I donate it, I would assume because it's alive, it's a functioning thing. Oh.
Well, in some of the brains I've looked at too, since it's not active and there are a lot of like holes in it, isn't that kind of the whole entire thing? Is like when Hernandez died, for instance, they said that he had like terrible CTE because when they looked at the brain, there was all these parts of it that just weren't working for a long time.
The brain is so fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it is.
I'd say, yeah. The different areas and how what controls what. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird world.
I'm so intrigued by. I don't know, because like, there's all these supplements that fuckers are selling.
Nootropics, but that's not really for. That's more to like operate like I don't know, like focus and all that. I don't think that's to help brain trauma.
To bring back brain cells.
I don't know if they definitely can't claim that. They may hope it does.
You mean like Alpha Brain?
Yeah, because like.
Bill Romanowski has one too.
What's that?
Like nootropics, he has different supplements like that he sells.
Because if you get, I guess if it happens in different areas too,
Yeah.
right? Because Dr. Myron Roll, former NFL player, he went through everything from the medulla oblongata all the way up to the front thing here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And each
What's
part,
the most important?
well, it depends. Like the emotions up here in the front right, but the rest of the right is basically an air pad. I didn't like hearing that. I didn't like hearing that because that's where the emotion is and everything like that. I think right here is the most important part. This is the memories, pal. This is probably the good old times. Yeah. This is where things really, because if those get fucked up, then what are you? You're living kind of lonely and empty, right? I mean, that's a whole thing.
Well, and that's like dementia.
Is that Alzheimer's dementia?
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's already a problem.
And then
specifically.
front left is a very important one. I forget what that fucking lobe does.
It's like creativity and stuff like that, right?
So where it depends where you have your injury, I guess. So how can they cure it all? I don't know. I have no idea. I wish they would let us, without having to use ayahuasca and other stuff, just use the whole fucking brain, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Too powerful.
hey, brain, just fucking let me in. You know, let me die.
When are they going to do transplants? They going to be able to transplant brains eventually?
So I remember I looked at one thing up where they were doing a full body transplant, and it was like, all
You mean
right.
the cryo freeze?
Well, no, they're actually just slicing your head off with the whole thing and then putting a new body on. This was like 10 years
Like
ago.
Chris Angel?
No, that was the hips and waist of the wrong person on a different person.
Right.
I did find out from meeting Chris Angel out at SummerSlam, though, that they were able to put the legs back on the proper.
Good.
Thank
Good
God.
to know.
Yeah, so it wasn't new legs, new chest day.
Sure.
Okay, it was, they did end up making it back. That was part of the magic.
Phew.
You all right?
I'm good. I'm just picturing the first time you meet him, that's the first thing you ask him.
Chris, I've been mean to ask. My mind was freaked, dude.
Yeah.
All right, it was. When you just started switching pants and shit with everybody, did they get them back? Oh, yeah, bro. Don't worry about it. All right, let's talk about the football pants.